Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 11th episode of the Leadership Lounge. You're joined by myself and my two leadership fellow coaches, Alison and Sophia. And so today we are going to talk about a very, very interesting and an important topic that has affected us, all of us, whether directly or indirectly. We're going to talk about what is the key factor behind the Great Resignation. I'm sure that you've at least come across it if you haven't been touched by it so far. So let's talk about what the Great Resignation is and why it is so important to talk about. But before I go into that, just so you know, because it is such a massive topic and an important one for that, we have broken this topic down into three main parts. Today is the first part of that series, and we're going to talk about the mindset shift that has happened during the pandemic and how it has impacted people. The second episode is going to we're going to talk about how if you're an employee and if you're going through that mindset shift, then what can you do about it? And the third one is going to be how can you support your team members as a leader if they've experienced this mindset shift to basically sort of ensure that the Great Resignation doesn't happen in your team. All right, so let's focus on the mindset shift that people have had during the pandemic and the impact of it. So I'm going to share with you some stats as I go along, just to sort of establish the importance of it and why generally people are consciously thinking about the reasons for their mortality and therefore the impact on their work on a day-to-day basis. So according to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, over 47 million Americans voluntarily quit their job last year. It is considered an unprecedented mass exit from the workforce, which has been spurred by COVID-19, and that is now widely being called the Great Resignation. Now, when initially this Great Resignation started, people really thought that either people are quitting because of childcare issues or they just want more pay. But in the past couple of years, there's been lots and lots of research where pundits and gurus have found that what has really happened is the main reason behind Great Resignation is what they're calling it the Great Rethink. And what they found by studying different companies and different employees in those companies is that what people are really looking for is a deep purpose at work. And what they've actually found is that where before most of the people didn't think they could find purpose at work, they've actually realized that there are many other organizations, they are out there who are supporting them in offering work that they can connect to. Ryan Roslansky, who's the CEO of LinkedIn, has said that more and more people will be doing work they love at companies they feel passionate about, they can connect to, and they're trusted just to really pursue their purpose. What the research has also found is that one of the three main reasons, the top reasons why people have left, is the pay was too low, they felt disrespected at work, and there weren't opportunities for advancement. So imagine that if people are feeling disrespected at work, whereas before, probably most of the employees just took it because it's a job and that's how the environment is, people are choosing with their feet. And hence, what has happened is there's been a complete mindset shift in terms of what employees expect from company cultures, the reward, the flexibility, the learning, and the development. Additionally, Great Resignation has been fueled heavily by the reordering of daily priorities for most segments of the population. Factors such as work-life balance, mental health, and connection to a greater purpose were basically all reprioritized, and we experienced it. We tasted the sweet poison, and we know that you can do great work and you can have a great life. It doesn't have to be this or that. You can succeed by working from home. And just very lastly, the data released by the UK's Labour Force Survey in November 2021 showed that about 1.02 million people who moved jobs between July and September, of them, 391,000 of them had resigned without a job, the highest spike ever recorded by the LFS. And lastly, from me, that we have been confronted with the reality of our mortality, as I just mentioned. And while thinking about death is scary, but it's also extremely clarifying. People are asking themselves what their real values are. Why, when our time is so finite, why would I want to spend my days doing something that I don't enjoy and don't bring meaning to my life? And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Alison and get her thoughts on what she thinks about the great resignation, or rather the great rethink.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm seeing so many of those themes in my practice as well. It's really interesting talking to people about what they're experiencing, because there's the same sort of topics coming up again and again. And a lot of people think, oh, I'm unique. This is something individual to me. But there are so many commonalities between what people are experiencing, because we're all humans and we all have particular needs. So I guess I would see two main streams that are really coming through. So as you said, Tasneem, purpose is a really big one. I guess particularly the older generations. I'm an Xer as well, but the Xers and boomers, we were sort of taught, you do your time. If you want to have an amazing job, if you want to be an investment banker, you've got to sit your first 3 years as an analyst in the corner doing your spreadsheets. And then you move on to associate and you're doing your presentations for someone else. You don't touch a client in 6 years. Like you've got to do your time, and then you'll make lots of money and you retire early and go and have a villa in Ibiza somewhere. That's kind of what we did. And then millennials sort of came along and said, oh, I want my avocado toast. But, is there something else that we could actually be doing here? And they're sort of the ones that really brought in like the nomad lifestyle, and like they're sort of the side gig culture as well, and this hustle culture. You can do things if you want to. It's okay to go outside of the mainstream and give that a go. You can be successful. And now Gen Z, they're basically saying, look, I want X, Y, and Z. I deserve to have this balance. And they're actually getting it. And the older generations are sitting there thinking, hang on a second, but they're doing it. And the pandemic has really shown us that there are other ways of working. You can change jobs or change industries even, and you'll be okay. There is enough in you, and there's enough out there that you can actually make these decisions. But as a coach, it's very tricky helping people find their purpose, because so often it kind of goes two ways. It's like people know what they don't want, but they're not quite sure what they do want. So they're not happy with where they are, and they know now that there's more out there, but they don't quite know where to go. And so a coach can help them find that direction for them. Or the other way is they know where they want to go, but by golly, that's scary. And there's a lot between now and where they want to be. And they just want to be where they want to be at the end. They don't want all the uncertainty and change in the middle. So a coach can really help them identifying exactly what it is that they want, what the steps are in between to get there, what their fears are, and how we can really dig down into those and see if they're real. And if they are, create an alternative plan to get through them, and how we can get you there together, taking small steps. So going to a coach might be biased, but I think it's very really helpful for some people to talk through their situation with a coach. And I think the second really big theme that has come out, and you also mentioned this, I think, Tasneem, it's values. And I know this is like a coachy concept, what are values? But if we go through life doing things against our values, our true values, then we will feel a certain dissonance in our system. So a lot of people in the pandemic, they always thought my key value is my family. I'm a mum. My key value, my family always has to be number one. And then with homeschooling and home office, they're like, shit, I have nothing else to give. I am burning out from all of these things. It's important to me, but actually maybe achievement at work or autonomy is also really, really important to me. And that's okay. You're allowed to have different values. It's what makes you feel right and good inside. So exploring those values with a coach and coming up with ways to accommodate what is truly important to you can be kind of really a relief and quite satisfying for people. Another value that has really come out is trust, the value of trust. particularly with micromanagers, they didn't really trust the people that they were working with in the office. And now a lot of people are at home and they're doing their work without somebody looking over their shoulder or micromanaging them. And they're thinking, gosh, I'm really productive. When I can just sit back and do my work, I'm really productive and I feel trusted. And this sense of autonomy is something that makes me thrive. And knowing that sort of gives them the idea that maybe I need to find a job with a different manager who allows me, whether in the office or at home, to be trusted, or maybe even a new job where I can feel that trust and autonomy, because that is also a really important value to me. So these things they're really coming into stark relief during the pandemic, and it's so interesting, the commonalities that we're seeing. Sophia, what have you been saying?
Yeah, well, what you were talking about, the values, really what you're saying is when you go against your values, or if you are in a place where you feel that you are forced or pushed to take decisions or act against your values, it will eventually really burn you out. It will start to feel really, really uncomfortable. You might not understand why. And eventually it will burn you out. And whether you know your values or not, they steer you. You might just, maybe you just don't have found those words to be able to say, my values are this and that, but you have the values. And when you act against them, you will feel discomfort. And then Tasneem, what you were saying, I love the word like the big rethink. Instead of this disruptive word, but I mean, it's a big rethink. We have new ways of seeing what is important to us, and if there is anything positive that has come out of the pandemic, it's definitely that, realizing what's important to us, and oftentimes understanding that we need to put ourselves first, like, the safety belt and in the airplane, put your mask on first. This is really important. So what I believe that during these years now, more than 2 years of working from home, being in the pandemic, especially the employees have realized that they have the right to have demands and expectations on the other party, which is the employer, or maybe in first line, the manager. So the employees have started to see that, hey, this is not okay for me, and I have the right to also have a say here, because this is not an ownership. The employer does not own me. We have a contract, we have a relationship. And in this relationship, just like with any friend or intimate partner, you have the right to also be able to set the rules and the culture for how do I want this relationship to work out. And if it doesn't work out for me, I will pull out. And the employees have started to see that. And just like what Tasneem was saying, is that people are starting to pull out without even having another partner waiting for them, because the current relationship or the employer that they are with is too toxic or too destructive for them. So really, if the employer is playing their cards right now, they will understand this and invest in this relationship. They will invest energy, money, invest money in the employees. And that I'm not just talking about the salary, I'm talking about the development and really showing that we care about the health of the employees. They will invest a lot of effort and energy and time in the employees. That's when it will work out. And that's when we call it a relationship. And that's also what it means to take social responsibility as an employer. So we talk about a lot of sustainability, right? We talk about the environment, but in sustainability, you also have the social responsibility. And as an employer, it means that you take a social responsibility for your employees. Do we take care of them in a sustainable way? Will they remain healthy? Will I be able to keep them? What are your retention levels? And will I be able to keep them so happy so they are staying productive and creative and innovative? So that's really so important. The employees were probably the first ones to realize that, okay, this is a relationship and not an ownership. And now it's time for the employer to really understand that, okay, this relationship, I also have to give more than just the salary here if I want to keep my people. But this is exactly what we will talk more about in the other episodes. So I think that's it from us today. This is such a huge topic, and I think we all have a lot of emotions and a lot of thoughts and ideas on how to make this better. But really not just looking at the pandemic as something negative, because there were a lot of good things coming out of it as well. So thank you all for joining us also today. Stay tuned for the next episodes, because there's more to come on exactly this topic. So see you next week. Bye.